Hi YouTube, this is Darkon633. Back with another Star Wars review. Today we're going to look at the first of the standard 3 3/4 inch Force Link activated figures, which I've gotten during Force Friday, and that is Kylo Ren. Now, in terms of overall design, there isn't a whole lot of difference between the overall sculpt between this version of Kylo and the one that came with the TIE Fighter, except for his head sculpt and the fact that he comes with the cape. So, before anything else, we're going to take a look at the box. The box is actually a pretty small sized box, surprisingly. I thought this would have been a little bit bigger, but the boxes are actually quite tiny this time. It does show that it has Force Link. It does have a picture of Kylo Ren there. And on the back, it just pretty much shows some pretty basic stuff. There isn't a whole lot going on there. And it doesn't even have any cross promotions with other figures this time, so it's very generic. So now we're going to take a look at the figure more closely. In terms of our overall sculpt, as I mentioned, it is pretty much the same as the pilot version, which I have here. Although the head sculpt, in my opinion, is far superior on the standard release than it is on the one that came with his TIE silencer. That's just because I think this head is a little bit too big, and the way that they designed the hair sculpt looks really weird. Also, his face design really didn't transition very well in this version, but oh well. Articulation-wise, once you actually remove the cape, which unfortunately is the somewhat harder plastic, I think in some cases it would have worked a little bit better with the soft goods, but they don't usually do that nowadays with the 3 3/4 inch in the basic line, so I can understand that. Though, this cape is really not all that impressive, and it really just hinders articulation anyway. Articulation is the exact same thing with the other 5 points of articulation figures, heads on a ball joint, swivels at the shoulders, and swivels at the hips, so you're not going to get a whole lot more articulation. You also have the same lightsaber as we've seen with the other figure, so there isn't a whole lot difference going on, besides the fact that it is a pretty decent standard figure. Now, we're going to take a look at this Kylo Ren with a bunch of the other Kylo Rens they released throughout the lines. Anyways, we're going to take a look more closely. First, we're going to take a look at the standard version of the release, and this is just the standard figure that they had. It's really just a generic kind of Kylo Ren they just released for the standard 3 3/4 inch. It's pretty much normal there. Obviously, this is the one that they released with the vehicle. Next, here it is next to the one that was from the last bit of The Force Awakens, where he was unmasked, which was quite hard to get a hold of. And here is the one they released in the kind of mission series sets of figures that had the extra accessories. They're basically just like armor-ups and so on. So, while he didn't change overall that much, because his colors are pretty much the same, between the standard release that was released in The Force Awakens and the new release, he's definitely changed his outfit overall when you look at it more closely. The colors are about the same, but the overall design has changed decently enough between the two movies. One other thing I actually double-checked with is that it seems like the only other difference between these two figures is that the way that they actually placed the actual Force Link chip or whatever. On this one, it's like straight on, like near the middle of the foot, while this one's more towards the front of the foot there. So, I guess that's another difference between the two variations of the figures. In conclusion, this is still a pretty decent release of Kylo Ren, since this is the only standard figure outside of the one that's released with the Force Link bracelet with this helmet, and the other release that's with the vehicle. So I guess it's okay for those who actually just want a standard 3 3/4 inch figure of Kylo Ren in the Last Jedi toy line. Most likely, Hasbro will be releasing a Black Series version of this particular outfit, but as of right now, there's really only 3 options in the standard 3 3/4 inch line from what I can tell for Kylo Ren. So, I guess this is definitely worth it for those who just want, in this particular scale, this version of the character, but if you have the vehicle like I do and so on, it's kind of hard to recommend getting every one of them, but it really just comes down to preference, and for those who don't want a vehicle, then yeah, this is probably the best one, unless you also want to get the one with the gauntlet. Anyways, please comment, subscribe, and check out Hero Club and Hero Taku. Please check the little bell at the bottom of the screen and receive my content go up as soon as possible, and please check the other channels down below. Don't forget to check me on Twitter under Darkon633, and I'll be back with more Star Wars reviews. But for now, I'll be seeing you later, YouTube. Bye.